Wonder Woman director Patty Jenkins criticizes straight-to-streaming films as looking like fake films. I don't hear about them, I don't read about them. Cue the music. What's up everybody, Trinity here, welcome back to 2nd Street. Smash that like button and let's get right into today's video where we are talking about these heinous quotes put out there by Patty Jenkins talking about straight-to-streaming films. Now, I got home from work yesterday. Yes, work. I've got a real job. Anyway, I got home from work yesterday and I hopped on Twitter and I noticed an unusual amount of people talking about Patty Jenkins and sharing this article out there from Screen Rant, and in which, it shared some quotes from the article, some quotes that Patty Jenkins had made at CinemaCon during a panel that was put on by the LA Times, in which had Patty Jenkins as well as several other studio executives and theater owners. I almost said cinema owners. Theater owners. And they were there having a discussion about streaming services and day and date, and it was a pretty good conversation if you get into the actual article. Now, the article I am talking about here is the one that had everybody knee-jerk reacting on Twitter, and we all know how that can get. So I got on there and I seen this article from Screen Rant. I don't normally get on and read all these articles, but I had to see what all the was all about. And I got in there and clicked, and wouldn't you know it, towards the very beginning of the article, they tell you who their source for this is. Now, most of these, even clickbait websites, will put those in there, but chances are that you're not going to click them, right? You want to read those juicy lines in this comment that this writer is making from a cherry-picked line of a quote, right? Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Cherry pick them? Yeah. Anyway. Let me know down there. Do you want me to just cherry pick this quote? Because so then you can cherry pick what I'm saying? Maybe we should do that. Getting into this article from the LA Times, it says, given the pandemic's resurgence because of the Delta variant, it was remarkable that last week's gathering of theater owners and studio executives in Las Vegas, known as CinemaCon, happened at all. During the festivities, Los Angeles Times hosted a luncheon and panel discussion of the future of cinema, featuring Wonder Woman 1984 director Patty Jenkins, Paramount Pictures domestic distribution president Chris Aronson, Marcus Theaters CEO Rolando Rodriguez, and Cinemark CEO Mark Zorati. Jenkins' comments about the release of the Wonder Woman sequel was the first Warner Brothers picture to go HBO Max and theaters simultaneously, a strategy known as day and date, got headlines. But Jenkins' message for Hollywood was a broader appeal for studios and theaters to bring massive audiences back to cinemas. She implored studios to stop ceding genres like adult dramas to streaming services. She also didn't spare theaters themselves, in which her view often failed to live up to the romanticized version of the theatrical experience that CinemaCon promotes. Box office has a long way to go in its recovery, but as I write this, some movies that aren't available for streaming are showing signs of life at theaters. Universal Pictures' Candyman reboot, directed by Nia DaCosta, opened with a better-than-expected $22 million domestically. Ryan Reynolds' Free Guy fell a mere 29% week-to-week in the US and Canada, which is outstanding for a mainstream movie. Now, here are some of the highlights from the conversation, edited for length and clarity. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we are reading are cherry-picked quotes in the first place. But let's go ahead and get right into this conversation here, where you got Ryan Fonder, who says, how can the theatrical business come back as the studios are experimenting with all these different business models with streaming and premium video on demand? And Patty Jenkins goes on and answers this and says, I think this is such an interesting period of time because this pandemic struck right when we were at a moment when we were debating this issue anyway. It has been very easy for a lot of people to use the pandemic as an argument pro something that some of the industry was already trying to do, which is day and date. So what she's saying is it kind of makes an easy argument for them because everything was shut down. People couldn't go to theaters. So naturally, people are going to watch streaming services, and it makes their argument that much more valid, which, you know, she's right there. It does seem like that, but it doesn't really, as we can see by what they said at the beginning of the article just a minute ago about some of these films still showing life at theaters, even with the day and date thing kind of going on. It says, she says, the truth is, I have thought there was a big misunderstanding of the theatrical industry going on for a long time. In my view, the theatrical industry was always booming and can always be booming if it has diverse content, appeals to all age groups, and is a wonderful experience. And this is kind of what they were talking about just a minute ago as well, where that's absolutely true. You gotta have that, and you know, she's not saying diverse as in, you know, that thing that's gonna trigger you out there, right? Getting all that representation and stuff. She's talking about having films for kids, films for teens, films for, you know, I guess young adults, but not YA. I would say, you know, kids like in their 20s, you know, teen, 20s, 30s, you know, you know, like all those raunchy comedies, you know, remember all those raunchy comedies that were so fun that, you know, you probably look back at it super bad now and you're like, yeah, it's still funny, but it's probably, it's not the best movie, but I remember laughing my ass off to this movie, and I still do, right? Just those kind of coming of age movies, if you will. And also, and that's what she's talking about there. And also, that's kind of what makes for a better experience when you go to the theater as well. When you have, you attract a bunch of different theater goers there. And in my lifetime, I have watched diversity of content plummet. You can have 6 theaters in town, even in Los Angeles, and they're all playing the same 3 movies. Quality of the screens has gone way down. I'd say 80% of the time I go into the theaters, the volume is at a 6 or a 5. The streaming industry has proven that it wasn't true that adults didn't want to go see dramas and that people didn't want to go see documentaries. They do want to see all those things. I'm going to fight right by your side to keep my films in the theatrical experience, and I'm excited for us to bring back the theatrical industry on the other side of this. And this is when Mark Zarate of Cinemark says, he says, thank you for all you've done. You said something that was really important, which is that we saw a lot of experimentation at that time. And what we're seeing now, and we've been hearing this week, both publicly and privately, is that just about every content provider is back to saying that some form of an exclusive, flexible, theatrical window is good for the business. Now, I think that I think that's a pretty good statement there. Like, I know there was like, what was it, like a 90-day window as well before, like, after a movie finished its theatrical run, it had to wait X amount of days before it could come out on physical and streaming services. I'm okay with them shortening that window. I'm also okay with them maybe even shortening the average length of a movie at the theaters. I think most of them typically go for like, what, 6 weeks or something like that, it seems like. I've seen some, it seems like they go shorter, some longer. I think it really kind of depends on the film, its budgets and things like that, and probably even the success of it as well. But anyway, again, I think a pretty good point there. Chris Aronson of Paramount says, I think we have some underlying issues that need to be addressed. It's the quality of the experience. We're exhorting people to come out of their homes. A year and a half of pandemic has changed consumer habits, and he's not wrong there. A lot of decisions are going to be made on a picture-by-picture basis, absolutely, as studios have always kind of done as well. Straight-to-streaming services are not new, or like direct-to-DVD, direct-to-VHS. This is nothing new. Studios have made movies like that for years. Streaming services just allow them to get that out there faster than if they have to put out a physical product like a DVD or a VHS tape out there for consumers to buy. They can put it on streaming before they ever even do that. So, getting back into this, he says, I don't think you're going to see any slate-long deals anymore like what Warner did with HBO Max, but until we get our business back, we have to make some tough decisions. We just do. I think the opportunity is for us is if people aren't coming to theaters, we need to find out why. And I think we probably all know why, right? Right now, I mean, we know why. If you don't know why, you can feel free to ask down in the comments below. Now, this is where some of this conversation kind of gets a little bit interesting, and where a lot of those cherry-picked quotes were coming from. And most everything she says here, I completely agree with. Let's get into this. Founder says, Patty, can you walk us through your experience releasing Wonder Woman 1984 in theaters and on HBO Max, and what do you think of that model now? In which Jenkins replies, it was a very, very, very difficult choice. I was looking at what is actually turning out to be true, which is we have no idea when this pandemic is going to get under control in the way that we had hoped. It was the best choice of a bunch of very bad choices at the moment. It was a heartbreaking experience and hugely detrimental to the movie, and I sort of knew that could happen. I was happy to give the movie to the public. I don't think it plays the same on streaming ever. It was the right choice for all of us, and I was very much in deep conversation with Warner Brothers about that particular film. But no, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of day and date, and I hope to avoid it forever. The truth is, I make movies for the big screen. I'm okay with people watching it for a second or third time on their phone, but I'm not making it for that experience. I love the theatrical experience, and I don't understand why we're talking about throwing it away for 700 streaming services that there's no room for in the marketplace. It doesn't make sense for studios that have billion-dollar industries to throw them in the garbage so they can roll the dice at competing with Netflix. It's crazy to me. All I'm saying is that one studio should make a huge commitment to the theatrical experience and plant the flag, and the filmmakers will go there as a result. Again, this is another point in which I absolutely agree with what she is saying here, is that day and date is going to hurt any of the movies. I've talked about this on the show before as well, where, you know, you're getting that same thing. You're only paying one time for that one movie, where some movies I might go see at the theater 2 or 3 times, you know, instead of just going to see it once and then maybe you watch it again on streaming services, or maybe you just buy it the one time on your streaming and you get to watch it over and over and over and over again. Now, is that kind of ridiculous? I mean, yeah, I mean, it certainly is. I mean, why would you pay to go see the movie at the theater 3, 4 different times? Maybe just because it's a good movie, you like it. Maybe I just take my family to go see it one day when it premieres because I want to go see it because it looks like a good movie and we enjoyed it. So we go back on Tuesday, a discount Tuesday at my local theater that they have at Cinemark, right? They have the discount Tuesdays, so why wouldn't I want to go on the discount Tuesday again for a second time if it was a movie that we really enjoyed? Just like a movie we recently watched, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. My kids loved it. I actually thought it was pretty good. And now, you know, we might go see it again on Tuesday. Or maybe we'll go see Paw Patrol for the first time. But Aronson says, I have a line that if you put a film on TV, no matter what it was originally made for, it's a TV film. Put it in a theater, that's a movie. And I kind of agree with that as well. Jenkins says, and by the way, aren't you seeing it? All of the films that streaming services are putting out, I'm sorry, they look like fake movies to me. I don't hear about them, I don't read about them. It's not working as a model for establishing legendary greatness. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is where that line was cherry-picked from. And honestly, if you ask me, I think what she's saying here is absolutely right. She's not wrong here. This is something I've also talked about as well. Even getting into a show like The Mandalorian, where I thought they did very good with that. And I know this isn't a movie, it's a TV show, and I'll kind of get into that. But the point I want to make here with it is that they use this green screen technology, and here in this case they have their, I can't remember what they called it for The Mandalorian, this certain little kind of soundstage that they've got with this highly technologically advanced, so they could do some very beautiful work in sort of a green screen kind of way. It's not even green screen, that's the thing. And they're working with that. I want to say they call it the stage, but I feel like that's wrong. Feel free to beat me up about that down in the comments below. But even getting into that show, as good as I thought it was, there was still a lot of the things where I could see and I'm watching, I'm like, I can tell they're on a soundstage. When you get into even watching movies on like Lifetime or the Hallmark Channel, you know, all of those movies, you see the difference in a movie that is going on there on Lifetime as compared to a movie at the theater. There's just so many different things that are different. You get the lighting, you get usually a lot of the camera work, the cinematics, all of those different types of things, the cinematography, all of those different kinds of things are so much different than these low budget films that you get on the small screen as compared to the big screen. And that has to do not only with the directors and the budgets, but it has a lot to do with everything going on here where some of these movies are made for a streaming service. They're lower budget. They're doing things to cut corners and not be, I wouldn't say not be as good of filmmakers, but they're not doing that filmmaking thing, which is what a lot of directors and filmmakers got into the business for, which was making great movies with these big old, you know, beautiful cinematics and you just all of those different kinds of things that makes a quality movie as compared to a Lifetime movie, which that's what we're talking about here with these direct-to-streaming services. This is something that I've even talked about as far as some of these movies are concerned, where we're seeing just some of them like, I don't want to see all of these films shot on green screen or all of them shot on these, you know, like what I want to say it's the stage, whatever it is, where they're using all that technology. I like seeing movies and I can tell the difference when they're shooting on location and when they're not. And it's just to me, it's that feel of it and everything as well. And if you're going to take corners and cut all the corners and everything, that's exactly what she's talking about here, is you're getting these movies that don't look real, you know. And that's not saying that the people who are making them aren't talented or that they suck, but it's just not, it's filmmaking in a different kind of way. And is it even filmmaking? I mean, essentially you got actors LARPing over green screens or digital screens, right? Come on, man. Getting back into this article, Aronson says it's true. You can make 75 movies a year, and it's almost like watching 10 trailers in a row. You're not going to remember any of them. Looks to the audience of theater owners. He says, in case you missed that, 10 is too many trailers to play. And I'm sure we've been to some of those movies, right, guys? Founder says, streaming and theatricals are often seen as being at odds with one another, but can streaming and theatrical coexist and actually feed into each other? And this is when Jenkins goes on to kind of talk a little bit about all that stuff that she just said that's got everybody upset. Right here it says, Jenkins says, I also have a deal to make things for Netflix because I really believe in limited series and television series. As a filmmaker, there are stories I want to tell, like I Am the Night for TNT, that are longer and don't fit into the movie format. Streaming is great for massive amounts of content and binging TV shows. I think they are two very different skill sets, and I see them succeeding as two very different things. That's why I think it's a mistake for the film industry to throw something away so valuable. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I have to say I completely agree with right there 100%. And she's even saying there, against all those things that people are reading about on the tweeters and people are upset about, is she's saying that's what it is. There's a difference between making a movie, making a TV show, and even doing documentaries and things like that. There's a huge difference in those, and they are different formats for different reasons. And that's why I remember when what was it, WandaVision was coming out, there was people saying like, oh, the last episode's going to be 90 minutes, and I'm like, that's absolutely ridiculous. It's not even going to break an hour, because if you go into an hour, if you break an hour, or you go into an hour and a half, you're talking about a movie, essentially. You're not talking about a TV show. TV shows are generally going to be that half hour to under 1 hour, 1 hour format. That's a TV show. You're not generally going to get a TV show that goes on for 90 minutes or 2 hours, let alone breaks the 60-minute mark. Plus, by the time you take out commercials and all that stuff, I mean, you're really only getting about 45 minutes of content anyway with all the commercials that they would put in there. And so, I mean, that's what she's talking about here is, You've got all these different things. Every single one of these things has their place out there for those reasons. That's what the streaming services can do for the theaters. I mean, it seems pretty simple and self-explanatory. The industry don't have to change. Something I've talked about here as well. If nothing has to change for the movies as far as day and date, they can do away with the day and date. They get more money out of the theater ticket sales. People go to the theaters. They will. It's kind of proving that people are still going out to movie theaters, and then they can shorten that window and put them out on streaming services. Nothing has to change. Like I said, movies have gone from direct to VHS, direct to DVD, and things like that. There's plenty of movies that have gone straight to these streaming services as well. That's what they utilize these for. Something that's a lower budget movie that they can do that with and put it on these services, where something that's bigger, more prominent, they want to do that. But there's also one other interesting topic or one other point brought up here. Founder goes on to say, he says, how can talent such as directors and actors push to make sure they get the theatrical releases they want? Does talent still have the leverage to make those demands? And that is a very, very good question. Where Jenkins goes on to answer and says, I think we have to be very clear about the absolute necessity for it. I've talked to many filmmakers about all of us uniting, and if someone does guarantee a theatrical run, we will literally go out of our way and take late fees, all kinds of things to guarantee that your film has a chance of success in this certain kind of way. We in the world have lost so many wonderful things this way. Making appliances that last forever, we just throw them in the garbage and start making disposable ones. And somehow that happened. We don't have to let it happen here. The studio system has to aggressively work to not strangulate the industry by making it possible to be first-run theaters and play other diverse content. I think we need to stop treating it like a foregone conclusion that this is the inevitable future, because somebody's going to break the model in a way that rocks the world. Someone's going to be making movies and create a special deal with the theatrical industry and will hold it in much longer than everybody else. They'll be making $1 billion and everyone else will be counting their streaming dollars. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, I don't think that she's wrong there. I think she's absolutely right. And all those people who are upset out there that Patty Jenkins came out and said that these streaming movies look fake and she don't hear about them. There you have it right there, folks. She's not saying they suck or anything like that. She's saying they have their place not in theaters, in streaming services, in TV. All of these different formats have always served a different purpose, a different kind of thing. And you know what? Even as a moviegoer, as somebody who loves movies myself, I even see that in movies that I watch that are direct to streaming or direct, the TNT exclusive movie that they made, just all of these different kinds of things where the movies are lower budget and you can see it in everything. You can see it in the camera work, the lighting, the acting, everything like that. Like, not everybody is on their A game when they go and they make some of these films. Some of these, and that's the other thing too, is the talent in these TV shows and these movies. There's a reason that some people are not on the big screen very often. They don't have the talent to be on the big screen. Now, of course, you get people out there who are actors who are on the big screen who aren't that great either. Some people, some people it's based on their looks. Let's face it, and it's not always beautiful looks. Some people out there just have a look and get really popular based on that. They fit a certain whatever they're looking for, right? And I'm not gonna say just checking boxes, because not everything is always about that. Sometimes people just have certain looks and it doesn't always come down to beauty. But beauty seems to be where a lot of people get off more in being able to look good on screen, even though they're not that good of an actor. And I'm not gonna mention anything about Gal Gadot, who was in the Patty Jenkins movie. So, but to me, that's really what it's all about. I think there's a lot of read going on out there, people reacting to this without actually coming to this actual article to read it. That Patty Jenkins isn't just saying that all these movies suck and these creators suck and all of that stuff. She's saying each one of these different formats has a purpose, and not every film needs to be going direct to streaming, day and date, or anything like that. Movies can still exist out there in the theater and be good and draw audiences in. But that's just if you ask me. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about this, my words, and me flapping my gums, going on and on about this all day long. But that's all I've got for this video today, folks. You all have a good day, and we'll see you in the next video. Later.